if you live in Lafayette Parish and you're considering moving to Lafayette, you're going to want to tune into this episode of Real Talk. We've got Mayor-President Josh Guillory on the show and discussing all things that have made Lafayette Parish one of the greatest places to live and what is coming to our city in the near future. This is going to be a deep dive into current projects that the city has planned, new projects, and even some of the pain points that we've been dealing with for the last few decades and how this administration plans to address all of those issues. All right, Mr. Mayor-President, thank you so much for being here. Taking time out of your day to come talk to us about Lafayette. I do really appreciate it. I know you're busy. So welcome.
Yes. Welcome back. I'm here all the time.
Yeah.
So I appreciate
it. We do appreciate that. I know you're always giving us some really good information on our team, and, thank you for being here today. So, one of the things I want to start this off with is, your elevator pitch for Lafayette. People who are considering moving to Lafayette, whether it's moving their business, moving their family, why Lafayette? What's your elevator pitch why somebody should move to Lafayette?
No better place to be. No better place to raise a family. No better place to do business. No better place to live. Our quality of life is unmatched. If you can't find something fun to do here, there's nowhere you're going to find fun. That's fun capital.
Yeah. And I did you ever live outside of Lafayette before?
Yeah, I grew up in Alexandria. So
Okay.
that's why I have this twang accent. I'm 100% Cajun. I eat rice with everything. I talk with my hands, but I have this dirty trick that my parents played on me. But no, I love it, and it's good because it kind of gives me a little different perspective. For years outside looking in. But I moved to Lafayette to go to college and fell in love with this place. Fell in love with my wife, and here I am.
And so, Lafayette, it's a special place for all of us who are here, but for people who are coming here from somewhere else, it's hard to grasp because honestly, the truth is we're not the prettiest, we're not the prettiest city. When you go down Johnson Street, it's not like, we've got all these amazing bike paths and, and whatnot, but the culture and the people here is really what makes Lafayette so special, right?
You're right, and I'm so glad you said that because you nailed on two initiatives that we're working on right now, and it's currently in our budget. So one is our Gateway project. We're currently in budget where we presented the executive branch, my budget proposal to the councils. It'll take about a couple of months to get through that process, but in that proposed budget, there's a $3 million investment. I believe actions speak louder than words. So we had to make some decisions, move some things around. We believe in zero-based budgeting, fiscal responsibility, no deficit spending if you can avoid it, and we did.
Right.
But $3 million investment in our gateways. We're going to start on I-10, right around the Scott exit, all the way to the parish line. Scott is doing a great job with their beautification effort, so we feel like as a parish, as a team, we could complement that and add to it, add some synergy. You take that, you mentioned bike paths. Like, we need one.
Yeah.
We're recruiting all these jobs. We got all these, especially innovation, technology, transportation, logistics, and that demographic specifically, when you talk about quality of life measures, really likes the pedestrian traffic, really likes to bicycle, use their bicycle around town, get to and from, not just for recreation, but actual transportation. So we have in our budget, it's already budgeted right now. It's in the process and under design. We've had a little bit of action, a little bit of dirt turning.
Yeah.
But we're going to, I think, $12, $13 million in investment, right?
Can't wait to
That's
see
huge.
that. Yeah. So going back to the beautification of our gateway, talk more about that. What is that going to look like?
So pending council approval, which I don't think any of them would push back on this, especially with the fiscal approach we took. But phase one is I-10. So we're looking at natural grass, natural flowers. It's for low maintenance because the last thing you want to get median. Yeah, like on the side, on the rights of way. So you have east-west corridor. So on the southern side of that and the northern side of that, running east and west. And on the exits, we're going to partner either public-private partnership or get some stakeholders to donate, some philanthropic drive behind it to really each exit have its own unique identity within a bigger unified vision.
Okay.
Like University Avenue, for example, highlight the university.
Well, so you're talking about money that the parish is going to be spending on that gateway, but we also have money coming from the state to that has been already appropriated for university, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you're very, very in tune. University Avenue corridor. We've worked hand in hand with Congressman Higgins' office, Governor Edwards' office, and this is a three-tiered approach: local, state, and federal. And so you're looking at right around south of I-10, go south a little bit north of the underpass. That's the corridor that we're focusing on. That's the biggest piece of this project. We want to take that and in typical Guillory administration style, throw some gas on the fire, make it even better, get as much value as we possibly can. And one of our phases, we don't know if it's phase 2 or 3 right now, it's still under design, is to add some beautification from I-10 all the way to Highway 90. Simple things like lamps, street lamps, trees, beautification. Can't boulevard the entire route, I would imagine, because right away and acquisition, but we'll get there. And then, there's so many great things going on individually. We want those to be more of a comprehensive plan, and that's what we're starting to.
Right. And, we're the culture and the people have been really carrying Lafayette for, decades and decades. It hasn't been because we got the best weather in the country or, we got the most beautiful streets and that, but like you said, the things to do, I could tell you my experience. I grew up in Lafayette, and then, I didn't know anything different, but then when you move away, like a lot of our Cajun women do move away, and then they bring back all these guys, right? They always come back.
There are recruiters.
Yeah, there are recruiters for Lafayette, and but it's amazing to see, how Lafayette's culture is thriving and how amazing it pulls you in, right? So, like, for those people who are considering Lafayette or we're on the consideration list, it's hard to put in words like why, what we're talking about. So
it's true, but I'll give you a little hope though. Our infrastructure is starting to match the quality of and value of our community and our culture. I mean, in 3.5 years, we've resurfaced more than 210 miles of local roads.
That's really good.
It is popping. I mean, little things like Pinhook, who has 35,000 cars a day that drives on the University Avenue corridor. Our local roads, while we still have some ways to go, we are overlaying and resurfacing and using technology at a pace that we've never seen before. If you take the previous 20 years and add it together, we're competing with what we've done in 4 years.
Yeah.
And that takes a team effort, but it's about prioritization. When I ran for this seat 4 years ago, I said if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. So you have to get your infrastructure in place. You got to do the kind of the mundane, boring things before you do the fun things, but we're able to do our $160 million investment in drainage. I can't tell you how many millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in roads, but I know the product, 210 miles. You can't make that up. And you compare that, those are facts. But now we're starting to see quality of life measures. Brown Park, a super baseball, softball complex, Moore Park, super soccer complex, where we're going to get tourism and tournaments, national tournaments here in Lafayette, instead of our folks going to Alabama and Texas and Arkansas. We want those guys to come here.
I love it, and there's a demand for that, and it's
high demand locally, and from a tourism standpoint.
I mean, why is that so much? Like when we were kids, we didn't have that, right?
No,
like, what?
Rec ball.
Yeah, it's crazy how many people are coming and traveling nowadays for whether it's soccer, baseball, volleyball. I mean, I have friends traveling all over the country to bring their kids to go to volleyball. It's crazy.
Volleyball, soccer for our youth athletics, and then on our older demographic is pickleball. Pickleball is fastest growing sport in the world. Our CAO told me the other day, so say, hey, we got a lot of pickleball courts coming.
Oh, really?
We do.
So y'all are putting them in each one of those parks?
Not each. We got 35 parks, but it's but we'll have at least 5 or 6 parks that have it. And right now, I think we have 2, so that's great.
That's awesome because I know that is a problem. Like, when in the summertime, I have friends that are playing pickleball that's like, I can't get into a court, But that's fantastic. I love all that. But going back to what you're saying is you really do have to make sure that we're fixing the problems that nobody sees first, but have to be fixed before we start doing that. So it's awesome to see. I mean, and I agree with you. We've seen more progress in the last, 4 or 5 years than we've seen in a long time, especially in the downtown area.
Yeah.
And speaking of downtown, and we're talking about infrastructure and drainage, for those of us that live and work and play downtown, if you've been downtown for a while, that we slowly started to have, issues with the drainage and, for whatever reason. And now we're addressing them, and it's addressing pretty fast. This morning, I was dropping off my son to his first day at Cathedral.
Yeah.
And I was going by Greg Walls' place, and I mean, if you see that, it's a huge sub-drainage station that you guys are putting that. Let's talk about that, because that's just one of 8 drainage systems that are like on the books right now.
Hey, kudos to you, because it's not the most exciting topic. You're on top of it. Right, so Greg Wall's a public-private partnership. Good community stakeholder that wanted to give back. He was putting in a parking lot, and Our engineers said, man, it's not the epicenter, but it's close to the epicenter where our engineers said we could store a lot of water as it moves to conveyance. And so instead of just doing a parking lot, do drainage underneath it, put the parking lot on top. Little things like that go a long way. But if you look, talk about downtown. Downtown's our capital.
Just to say one more thing about that, like, it seems like that things are just moving faster. Like something like that, like, because I know Greg, he's a great guy. He's been talking about that development for a while. And, to be able to pull the trigger and get that drainage work done, just like y'all did with the old city courthouse. Like, hey, we're going to remove a statue. Let's go ahead and put some drainage in there. I mean, kudos to y'all's administration to get that done. And it directly affects me because I have a house downtown and the places I like to go, like Pops, I mean, that makes a big difference. And but that's only 2 of the projects that you guys are planning. Right. I think it's 8 different stations in that area.
8 total. You'll see six of those in the next year and a half come to fruition and complete. The other 2 are really technically still under design, but we feel like they'll come to fruition if the cost-benefit analysis is still there. After we do the first 6, then we'll do the next 2. And our engineers are constantly reevaluating what you want.
Do y'all have those spots already picked out?
Yeah, we have a map that we can publish. I think we might have it already published. But one other project downtown in regards to drainage, we're adding 70 to 75 new inlets. So remember, drainage is really about holding water and moving water.
Sure.
So the projects we just talked about is more about holding water, detention, maybe retain it for a little bit. But you got to move it too. You got to move it responsibly. You can't move it in a way that floods somebody else. Your benefit can't be to someone else's detriment. We don't subscribe to that at all, small or large scale. But you got to be able to move the water. And the water, like Pops, for example, we were able to add 2 inlets, I think 2 years ago. That was such a temporary relief, but it made a difference.
Yeah.
At the triangle that you mentioned, that subterranean storage basin helps. That is the epicenter, by the way. Pops, the city.
Oh, is it?
The current city coordinator.
I mean, we gotta give Pops a call out. I mean, their food is phenomenal. And
absolutely.
And Greg Walls. I mean, are y'all just targeting restaurants?
Well, my office happens to be right by him, so I kind of frequent those places very often.
Those are, I mean,
where the signs took us.
Well, I mean, I'm glad because I do go to those places weekly, and their food is phenomenal, and you're helping out the business. And the fact that Greg was willing to do that, I mean, are you finding a lot of owners that are willing to, hey, look, I'm going to do this project, could you guys, invest in some infrastructure that would help me and the rest of the downtown? Are you getting that a lot?
Yes, proactively too, on both sides, on the private side and on the public side. And I think it goes to relationships. If you're a leader and you're leading from the front, and you're out and about, and you're communicating with stakeholders, and you're listening and you're humble about it. You're gonna see who you can rely on and who has those desires to give back, and can you partner to where everybody wins? Can you create that synergy? 1 + 1 = 5 type scenario.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing. But look, downtown we need to invest in our downtown. Downtown is look, Lafayette by legislation is the capital of Acadiana. Well, downtown is the capital of Lafayette.
Right.
In 10 years, from 2009 to 2019, we've invested capital projects, I think $2.5 million. In the 3.5 years we've been in office, we've invested 60 in downtown without raising taxes. We just had to get our priorities straight. We believe in one-time capital infrastructure projects and with a maintenance plan to follow it. And now you're starting to see the fruits of our labor.
No doubt. I mean, nobody comes to Acadiana and says, I want to go to ABC subdivision somewhere. They want to come to downtown. I mean, there's a reason why it's downtown. And it's great to see not only, the investment that we're putting into, which quite frankly has been lacking in the last decade.
But you've seen it. And what we find is private investment follows responsible public investment, not just any public investment, but thought out. And, and you mentioned about the speed of government. Look, we don't apologize for that. I'm a taxpayer as well, and I live here, and I'm, not knocking on anybody in the past, but there was a slower pace of government. We do our due diligence, but once a project's designed and it's funded, why would we wait?
Right.
Why wouldn't we go? I think our people deserve us to go full throttle, 100 miles an hour, responsibly, and get it done.
And just another example of that is the old parking tower right across from the courthouse. I mean, first of all, there should have been some money designated to keep that up for the parish's sake. I mean, it's our courthouse parking.
and more. Local stakeholders use it too.
And the fact that we almost lost it, and that you guys were able to put it back activate it is a great project. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Buchanan Street parking garage, and when we took office, it was condemned. It wasn't being used at all. We were told all these things like, "Hey, Josh, I know you're aggressive and all, but you're going to have to raise taxes. You're going to have tough discussions." No, we might have to have tough discussions, but it's not the discussions that the elitists were telling me about.
Yeah,
we just have to get down, roll our sleeves up, and get to work and make some decisions and prioritize. Long story short, we reevaluated it. We sent some engineers out because I just want to know. Everybody has their own leadership style. My leadership style in addressing an issue is to know where are we at, where do we want to be, and how are we going to get there. Well, I didn't know where we were at, so I needed to assess the situation. So we sent some engineers out, reassessed, and said, okay, hold on. Actually, the first inclination, and you can't see him on camera, but the guy behind me, Jamie Angel, was our chief communications officer at the time, and it was his first day on this job, and that was our first emergency that we ever declared because the engineers came back to us and said, it's actually worse than you thought. Those concrete panels that were on the building, a third of them, okay, were about to fall off. Yeah. They were held by brackets that were rusting.
And because the metal beneath them was rusting,
that's right.
So it was expanding and it wanted to pop off.
It's kind of scary if you think none of us knew about it. And I walked that path going to from a lot, So, all right, so I said, okay, well, if we're going to have to tear it down, those concrete panels would have to come off anyway. Like, yep, that's true. Okay, well, so we'll take the concrete panels off, see what's underneath, and reevaluate it again.
Yeah.
Take another tactical pause. Can't hurt, but do it efficiently. So they removed the concrete panels. We still didn't know if we could save it. They reassessed the situation, took all that weight off of the structure. Engineers came back and said, okay, if we do this, this, and this, we'll give you a clean bill of health. You can put it back into commerce, and that's exactly what we did. And we did that without raising taxes. We did that without to the detriment of drainage or roads or any other core functions of government. And it's one of our brightest shining examples. Is in commerce right now. There's phases to beautify that structure. Mm-hmm. Once we do that, we have a lot of options available to us with the jail. We talked about that with the jail moving out of downtown. If you take the footprint we're talking about, Buchanan Street parking garage, plus the jail footprint, which is about a 5-acre footprint in the heart of our city and parish, man, there's so much economic opportunity that is going. I'm speaking truth. It is going to happen.
Well, I can't wait because and we're talking about a boring parking garage, but what most people and I didn't realize is the impact of losing that to the rest of the businesses in downtown area was catastrophic almost. I mean,
absolutely,
because you had a parking garage that was in place for the courthouse. All those people still have to park somewhere. So what happened was when y'all closed that down, they were parking and taking up all of the street parking everywhere, which was a serious problem for the businesses and our clients downtown. So, I mean, that was I would not have expected that to go so well and so fast for you guys. So, and you're a lawyer by trade.
That's right. We need them on our side.
When did you become an engineer? When you become mayor, is that like a thing? Like you got to start like working with engineers?
Yeah, but dispel all rumors. I am not an engineer.
Yeah, wait, you're dealing with
rule number one as a lawyer: know what you don't know. So I say all the time. Nah. Isn't it funny though? It's. I love this.
I mean, did you think that was going to be part of your job? Like,
no, not really. I did, and anybody that does, hey, kudos to you because I did not. And I knew we had to get the resources to the subject matter experts.
Sure.
I didn't know. And again, everybody has their own leadership style. I like to kind of know what's going on, and I delegate out when I need to. But if I'm communicating to the public on a very important topic, I owe it to them to know at least a little bit of the topic.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta learn about it, and I hear you talking, and I've seen you talk a lot of times. You're talking about all the engineers and the structural damage and all this stuff. I'm like, God damn, like you really have to know all kinds of stuff when you become mayor. Well,
jack of all trades, master of none. But I was going to say, I love this job because you could have a meeting at 8 o'clock to talk about parking garages, 9 o'clock to talk about drainage, 10 o'clock to talk about fire protection, 11 o'clock to talk about T-ball.
Yeah, right.
And then go this.
Well, let's talk about because since we're on downtown, I've got a lot of things I want to hit, and we could talk all day. But you mentioned the jail. Let's talk about the jail.
Huge win for our parish. Huge win for our parish. Long story short, 2026, it's going to be moved. We're moving it without raising taxes. This is a joint effort between local government and our state stakeholders. We could have moved it without the state's capital outlay investments, but it would have been a smaller capacity. Now with the investment from the state, we'll be able to hit target capacity. It's going to move off of Willow Street next to the sheriff's facility. He already has his training facility out there. It makes sense. And you got to remember, this is a parish jail. So a lot of these inmates are just there temporarily. They're waiting for trial. They still have local families that visit them, and then they're in programs so that we don't have recidivism, and that we fix the problem. Mental illness is a big issue, substance abuse, alcoholism, drug abuse. We want to get ahead of those things. So we need a facility that helps to eliminate recidivism. It's a kind of a holistic approach that we're taking here, but you need the facility to do that. Now, It just happens to have a huge domino effect from an economic standpoint for our entire parish. And you move that, you open up with everything that follows it, you'll have about a 5-acre footprint right in the heart of our parish, downtown Lafayette. Everybody's going to win from this.
No, I can't wait to see it. So what's
we're going to be one of the first. We're going to be one of the only I think we're the first parish in the state, but we're not one of the only parish counties in our country to structure a financial vehicle in this manner in the public-private partnership. We're not privatizing the jail. I don't support that. But public-private partnership, partnering with our stakeholders and getting some world-renowned talent here in Lafayette to do that. And the bottom line is we do it without...
What do you mean by that? Because how's the public part of the jail at all?
So there's a lot of efficiencies that the private sector can have, especially when constructing buildings that the government can't do. They can build it cheaper. They can maintain it at a more efficient pace. So that, because I always want to know too, well, where's the angle here? How are you making money if you're doing this, and how are our taxpayers benefited? What's the return on investment?
Right.
And so that's the long story short right there. It's a vehicle that capitalizes on the efficiencies of the private sector from a financial standpoint. Those efficiencies are recognized on the private side, but we take advantage of them on the public side too. We have a millage that helps fund this process, and actually 2 millages, and that's what we plan on using.
That's fantastic.
And it all has to be approved through bond commission. There's a lot of checks and balances.
So the parish owns the land downtown.
Yes.
Is the city going to buy the land?
Anything's on the table.
I mean,
probably not.
Are they going to put it up for sale?
So right now we're putting together what I call a blue ribbon panel. I want a bunch of stakeholders involved. What I don't want to do and what we're going to avoid is what happened at the old federal courthouse building, where it just stayed there for about 10 plus years.
Yes,
the pigeons loved it. They were fans of it, right?
And if you didn't know, the old federal courthouse literally had such a bad problem with the pigeons. It was insane.
Yeah.
Like, the pigeons have been living in the 4th floor for like...
And they're tribal too. Like, that 4th floor didn't get along with the 3rd floor. It's horrible.
That's right. They had a giant like pigeon hawk living in there. Remember that? Like, I mean, it was literally this freaking big, and it was...
There's no way they got out, because in Lafayette, Louisiana, that pit, it would have been in a gumbo. There's no... That was a best kept secret for that guy.
It really was. But so what's going to happen with... Are you saying you don't want to see what happens?
Yeah, so we're getting the
federal courthouse, because you had the public, somebody, a private, buy it, and then they turned it into... They reactivated it. They've met the demand of residential housing. So, I mean, that looked like a perfect segue. Is that what you guys are hoping for, or are you not going to do that?
Sky's the limit. Okay. Everything's on the table. But if we can fast forward those first 10 years of the old federal courthouse, because you landed where we need to land. And then my predecessor, Mayor-President Robideau, did a great job working with the private sector, getting that project to come to fruition. I'm standing on his shoulders on that project. Now, that being said, I want stakeholders now. I don't want to wait till we move the jail to start having these community meetings, to start saying, hey, what could we put here? Ideally, we get good input.
Because that's coming 2026.
2026. So we're going to start this in the next 6 months. We're going to be...
$1 million starting construction on the new jail now.
It'll start within the next 6 to 9 months. Completion date, weather permitting, no later than the end of 2026. So that's pretty aggressive for that
everybody
facility.
Demo that. I guess they're going to demo that, and then
demo, refurbish, put it out there.
So hopefully, in a perfect world, we'll have something ready to go, and we'll just transition, so it won't sit there for a decade.
We could talk about it for hours. I'll summarize it. What we're going to land with this stakeholder group and input, and anybody watching, if you have any ideas, there's no bad ideas. We'll vet them. But we'll land with what's called a request for proposal, an RFP, maybe even RFQ, request for qualifications, some procurement process that's publicly and competitively bid, that where the benefit of the public side, parish owns the property, couple that with the power of the private sector to come up with these entrepreneurial spirit ideas, wildcatter type mentality, like, hey, I know what's best for the let people that have a risk and skin in the game knows what's best for the market in that area, not government.
Well, what about the Center for the Arts? I mean, what about putting the Performance Arts Center there?
So that ship has sailed. I'm
Where is that?
fully honest. So it's a university project that we're partnering with. Right now, it is scheduled to go across from the Cajun Dome. And the reason why I say that ship has sailed is all my downtown friends, I got your back. This project, when we are done, put me on the mic. When we're done after the jail moves and we replace that footprint with something, it will be bigger than the Performing Arts Center. We've got to think big. This is the most prime-time real estate in the parish. Everybody I would argue Keaty would benefit from this project, but our duties to our folks in the city and parish, and look, it is going to be big.
Well,
and by the way, only about 0.6 of a mile away from downtown. So downtown is uniquely situated by the university, by the UL Commons, where the Performing Arts Center is going to go, and then Moncus Park right there on the other corner. That and the oil center, you start to see a plan. We have a bigger vision, but we're starting to see it come together. And again, I got to give compliments to our community. It's the community's ideas that we're just blessed to put into action.
Yeah.
I'm not a king. I don't know everything, and I don't know all what needs to go everywhere. But I know how to lead. I know how to organize. I know how to get common ground and action. I mean, we're an administration of action.
So Moncus Park was a big success and huge. For and I know they've been working on that for over a decade to get that here. That seems to be a great public-private partnership.
It is.
But what about doing the same thing with Girard Park? I mean, why can't somebody come in and re-beautify that? I mean, it's already there. It's already got the infrastructure. I mean, has that ever been talked about?
We haven't had any serious talks about it, but my initial gut feeling is, hey, we're open to anything. I don't know if it would fit right.
Girard Park is great, but it's
really great right now. Go look at it. The grass is being cut.
It could be. It could be 10 times better. I mean, like I know the pool's going to be shut down or was shut down this summer, and that was an issue for some people. Yeah. But I mean, it's also right in the heart of Lafayette, and it's now with your bike path plan, it's going to connect to Moncus Park, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So,
and matter of fact, that first phase is Girard to Moncus.
I love it.
Yes.
Love it. Well, speaking about all these projects, like what is your highlights like so far? I mean, you've been in office. Like, what are the things that you're most proud of? Just give me a short answer.
All right. Well, I tell you this: government's doing what government's supposed to be doing. I promise to focus on things that matter. So drainage, we've invested $160 million. Again, maybe not the most sexy thing to talk about, but it's needed. $160 million investment without raising taxes to drainage in a comprehensive plan. More than 210 miles of local roads being paved in our city and parish. That is huge. Our economy is booming. That's not by accident. When the governor shut us down in COVID, when he had all these extreme policies coming across our country, we were the first parish to open our economy during COVID, and we are now starting to see the benefits of that. And I think you see it. Our economy is booming. It's diverse. It's not just oil and gas. We love oil and gas. We will always support oil and gas. This administration will. But we're seeing a growing impact in our logistics sector, our manufacturing sector, our innovation sector, our hospitality sector, all to complement our strong healthcare system and our higher ed, and I can go on and on and on. We have a safe community, and I'm proud of all of those things. And you put all that in, and it equates to a high quality of life.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with you. We've seen so much, especially, I guess I see it more because I'm in the downtown area, and I'm in every neighborhood, so we're seeing it.
You're right.
And I'm talking to with our clients, whether it's the action that was taken, or I'm not sure what, but we definitely are not having the flooding that we used to have, and it's not the same thing. I mean, our clients used to cringe every time it started raining, and it does feel different, and it might have been any one of those variables that you guys have addressed, whether it's just cleaning out ditches or, it could have been the subterranean drainage, like in downtown area.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to downtown real quick. I get asked all the time, Jim, like the other day I was having lunch with another investor, and he's like, Jim, I'm thinking about buying XYZ downtown. What's happening there? I know that there's a lot of stuff that's going on in the last, 12 months or 24 months, but where do you see downtown? Because we saw this evolution of what we have now. Downtown was the business hub. Yeah. They had a lot of residential. Actually, back in the 20s and 40s, that's where most of Lafayette was, in the downtown, were residential. And then the residents started to, after World War II, move out, and businesses were thriving. But then it started to die out. People started to move out to River Ranch. All the attorneys you can see now, like off of in River Ranch, off of Camellia, Cordoba, off of Ambassador Caffrey, they started to move out. But we've seen more move in. We've seen now we got more restaurants. I mean, Tsunami was a catalyst. There was nothing when Tsunami went in. I think it was maybe in '99 when they opened up. There was no restaurants downtown. And now we're seeing a thriving Jefferson Street with at least we got the entertainment, we got the food. What about the businesses? Where do you see downtown? Like, do you think downtown is a good investment long term?
Oh yeah, 100%. And I'll go. I think it's a twofold answer though. The Oil Center, we have big plans for the Oil Center too. I think that's more of your business district now. I think it has more of an opportunity for that. The downtown action.
Well, the opportunity definitely in price. I mean, when you're talking about building it,
but downtown was like that not too long ago.
That's right.
Yeah, and then we have our public investment now, sudden private investment. Now, sudden the values are going up. None of this is by accident. This is all by design, and it's a group effort. It's a community effort. Like I said, I'm just blessed to be in a position to actually bring it to fruition. We've had plenty of people tell you a good game and talk about all these great things, but talk is cheap. Don't tell me where your lips are. Tell me where your feet are.
Right.
Let me see your action. And that's what we believe in. So Oil Center has a great opportunity to complement downtown. It's right there. It is so close.
Yeah.
But downtown, look,
it really does. And I think the challenge with the Oil Center, at least now, is parking. I mean, it really does have a parking issue because we have it's all one, like all these buildings are one level. They've got perimeter parking, and if you're a law firm, an engineer firm, a real estate firm, you need more parking, and that seems to be the challenge that our investors are dealing with in that area.
Yeah, I could see partnering though with one of our good teammates over there in the Oil Center. The hospital's been great to work with. I could see us doing a partnership with a bigger company like that to address infrastructure like parking,
that would be amazing.
Paths. I mean, we've already had some small wins. If you notice Hyman Park right there on the corner over there at Girard Park Drive and College, it's that beautification effort's a joint effort between the hospital and the city. So it's little things like that. But look, downtown's diverse. We have a downtown action plan that we're just implementing, putting it to play, and that's that diversity that you see in retail, residential, business. If I had anything, I would want a time machine because we've allowed Lafayette over the years, 20, 30 years ago, to start growing out when really we probably should have started growing up more vertical from this perspective. We'll land where we need to land. We're going to get there, but we're kind of playing catch up here a bit.
Yeah, I mean, the Oil Center is poised to be, it's still an amazing location.
It really is.
There's a lot of demand to be there. When I was talking about the prices are less like lease prices, which I want to talk about. So we have, we saw absolutely the results of, Hurricane Katrina back in 2005. We were in the go zone.
Yeah.
And Lafayette really wasn't negatively impacted structurally or, infrastructure wise from Katrina, but we had all of the people from New Orleans moved to Lafayette, sucked up a lot of our supply and like the housing and even the office space. But then they came out with that go zone, which encouraged a lot of these business owners to go ahead and build versus, stay where they were or renovate. So we saw a lot of new construction. I built my building because we got the go zone, which was just accelerated depreciation. And so it made it affordable. Now, from 2015 to 2019, we saw a lot of supply inside of the older buildings because a lot of people have moved out. The office buildings market, the commercial office building market has been, I would say, weak up until recently. We've increased there's more demand and we're starting to fill it. Where do you see it going? I mean, we have literally, you're competing against, like, for instance, the Oil Center, the average lease price might be $17 a square foot, but then you have people building on Camellia, Ambassador Caffrey, and we're literally charging $35 a square foot. You know what I mean? Like, is that sustainable? Like, what's going to happen? And it's almost like it's not that there's huge margins. All the expenses to build a new building and infrastructure has gone up so high, they have to charge so much.
Yeah. from a government standpoint, everybody has their own philosophy. I believe if the government gets too far involved in that, it'll mess it up.
Oh, I agree 100%. I'm just curious where you think Lafayette's going to go with
But that doesn't mean that I'm not concerned about it. So kind of what do you do is in a position that we're in? Do what government does. Pave the roads.
Yeah.
Because it's real easy. And I'm not pointing fingers, but in the past, we've had different philosophies than what we've implemented. Our administration is different. We embrace that, okay? It's okay. But it's real easy to be in this position when you have discretionary spend and say, oh, we can just invest $100,000 here. Oh, we can just invest $1 million or $2 million there. But when government gets in the way of private sector, it just messes. You're picking winners and losers, and I understand we do that, but you got to try to avoid that. Now, my philosophy is do what government does. Pave the roads, fix the drainage, make sure the utilities are good, make sure that infrastructure you referenced in the downtown, people moved in the 30s and the 40s, and then they started moving out. Well, when they moved, they didn't take that old infrastructure with it. So when we do those drainage projects down, especially we're emphasizing downtown a lot today. Yeah. But downtown has some of those older pipes, older infrastructure in there, way before Dottie. So when our guys call Dottie, and they'll get everybody to mark it up. But there's some things that are just not recorded. The triangle on Jefferson and Lee was a prime example. I think we were delayed like 3 or 4 weeks, which for us is a lot. Yeah, we found a whole bunch of things. Hidden treasure. John Lafayette had some stuff, a little note for it, and time capsule from Alfred Mouton.
Did they?
No. Good story then.
Well, that is. You should have said yes.
I don't lie.
But you're talking to the business owners coming to town. Like, what are they saying? Like, moving to Lafayette. I mean, we're leasing out the spaces. I mean, as far as retail goes, we're at a very healthy occupancy rate now as far as retail, and
it's balanced. Yeah, it's balanced, and that's a hard nerve to strike sometimes.
It's amazing that that we're moving towards the $40 a square foot, which 5 years ago would have been outrageous. Where do you think it's going to just keep going?
I do. Again, it's a natural forces that government would only mess up in that regard.
Sure.
But you asked me, what am I hearing from business owners, especially new business owners? Very positive feedback. Look, we are a pro-development, responsible development city and parish. We don't shy away from that. We communicate. We don't eliminate. We don't want to live in a silo because a community that stops and stops growing dies. Yeah. So you got to continue to do that. But the feedback we're getting from businesses, especially with Mary Slyman leading our community development planning department.
From Mary, she's amazing.
Look, I told you. Look, you are only as good as who you surround yourself around. If I'm the smartest man in the room, then I'm right.
Association.
What's that?
You stole her from the real.
Absolutely, I know her talent is. Yeah. We got her.
Well, I'm glad you did.
She managed at MLS. I said okay because we were repealing and replacing.
I'm not saying that because she's in this room.
Yeah, is she? Yeah, it was. Look, we were at the time Mary came along. We were in the middle of repealing and replacing the Unified Development Code. Wasn't horrible, but boy, it was a one-size-fits-all. Wasn't tailored. Very, very overburdensome, overreaching. So we replaced it with the Lafayette Development Code. Very simple. And part of the positive feedback that we're getting from new business owners and developers that have developed and grown businesses in Lafayette, feedback we're getting is it's much easier to do business with Lafayette now. The permitting process. Our zones are more accurate and we're very flexible. You got to be stringent, but you have to have some flexibility with you too. You can't just have the mindset of I know best. I call them the cubicle police. Little bureaucrats that'll just think they know everything. Listen to your folks.
No, I've been in so many different pre-development.
Mary loves when I complain about the cubicle bureaucrats, but that's okay.
Well, that has also improved it, and you touched on it a little bit from our developing standpoint. It's never easy. Nothing is easy. It's not, if it was easy, then everybody would do it. But you guys have put together like a development liaison. Is it Aunt?
Yeah, Aunt Formosa.
Aunt Formosa. She's doing a great job to help bring us through that process when we do have a development. And, it's relatively quick to get a pre-development meeting.
Good.
Make sure everything is in line. Of course, developers and builders want to move fast.
We do too.
But it's great to see that we're moving faster in the government. There's things that we could move faster on, like actually we'll bring that up right now. And I know this isn't on your administration; it's more of a statewide situation. But we were able to bring to town a company that's looking at redeveloping the old Trap A facility.
Yeah,
and that to me is one of the best projects in the next 5 to 10 years that could happen to Lafayette, because it's going to activate the Vermilion River. It's going to be the first Vermilion River development that's going to be incorporating the river into the plan, and it ties in Acadian Village, it ties in Beaver Park.
Yeah.
So and I've talked to the developers. Stephen Artigo's one of the local guys involved. Marcel Wisnia, great guys, great visionaries, and they're doing it because they're passionate about this project. It's it's not about. Of course, they need to make money, but it's really about they're willing to put their neck on the line for Lafayette and for our kids to enjoy, Lafayette, but and the Vermilion River. But what do you see with that? I know the roadblock was in the state. They were trying to get some money for the bulkheading of the Vermilion, and that got shut down.
Two years in a row, and we advocated for it. Matter of fact, we put it in our capital outlay request just to hopefully give it a little more strength.
Why in the world would that be getting stonewalled?
Well, I think our legislators had to make some decisions, and it wasn't as high on the priority. I'll give them some cover on that, because look, our legislative delegation has been really good to us. So I can't fuss at them by not getting the bulkhead, because they really took care of some much needed infrastructure projects, especially throughout the parish in areas where without that investment we'd be not struggling. We'd find a way to do it, but it made it a lot easier. We're committed to this Trap A development, and like you mentioned with Marcel and Steven, like this is their brand on the line too. It's more than that. There's some.
It's a passion project. Obviously we hope that they can make money on it.
Sure.
But
and spend it all here.
Yeah, it's a community project, and we hope that
it is a communal project. And that bigger footprint that you mentioned by the airport, by Beaver Park, we're already doing. Again, control what you can control. On the government side, we're planning some beautification efforts that will help complement that development.
Yeah.
We're working with Stephen and those guys on how can we restructure some of our roads. I know one road in particular, the name is not in my mind right now, but I can't recall. But I know that we're
Doors.
It might be
Dorset.
I don't want to tell you the wrong one, but just straightening it out, making sure it's welcoming to the facility. But look, this is a huge win for our community, huge win for the state.
Yeah, so how are we going to get that through? Like, what's the next steps? How do we? Is there anything that? What's the next thing to get that deal done?
Yeah, I think Marcel and Steve would probably be the better person to answer that. From our standpoint on the local side, we're all in. I mean, we're working with them. We swapped some property with our public works department. I think I just signed that ordinance. If not, I'm signing it here in 2 weeks when it passes. We're all in. Maybe put some pressure on our new governor that comes in, whoever that may be, to say this is a great project. We're already working on connecting I-49, the I-49 connector, so this would feed right into that. So while we're doing that, just go.
Let's talk about the I-49 project. I mean, is that really going to happen anytime soon?
Yes, and you're starting to see some of it. So go to Ambassador Caffrey when it hits 90, that massive interchange. I was just looking at it the other day, last week, and I'm just blown away. Look, we fuss at the state all the time, and I don't support the old Huey P. Long road project model where it's centralized. But when you're talking about major corridors like interstates and state highways, that's exactly where the state should be. If they focused all their efforts on state road, like major corridors like that, we'd have a lot more efficient road program in our state. But that's probably a topic for a different day. But long story short, we are seeing movement. I applaud DOTD on that. I applaud our legislative delegation for putting money aside and investing in this project. It's the largest unfunded infrastructure project in North America. It is inexcusable why this project hasn't been complete. We're talking a 5.5 mile stretch, okay? 5.5 mile stretch that will just open this economy to links that we might not even be able to imagine. It'll also be a safety corridor. It's a national security issue. We're coming off of a pandemic. That's still important to folks. Well, we have a PPE manufacturing site right there that's prone to flooding without this project being done. We have southeast Louisiana that has an extra hurricane evacuation route if we get this connector. This connector is way more than a Lafayette success story.
Sure. Well, and, a lot of good things are happening in our parish, not just Lafayette.
That's right.
I mean, we've got, the other day they were talking about, this, I know this is it in New Iberia or is it in the solar panel project? Is that in New Iberia?
Well, there's a couple. So, yes, that's in
Lafayette too, right?
The big one you're referring to, I think it's more than $1 billion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's in Liberia. But that's okay. Their success is our success too.
Yeah.
We're team players, and then we have big short ties to regional. Our regional, we believe in regional wins, and that's one. President Richard over there in Iberia Parish, Mayor Freddie over there in New Iberia, they're all doing a great job. We communicate all the time. So we embrace that project. We're working on some. We almost had to deal with a PPA power purchase agreement with LUS and a solar panel company just to help diversify our electric output and generation. Didn't go through. We couldn't agree on we agreed on a 25-year lease, and I believe at the state level they said you can only go 15, and we got to respect that. So we're back to the drawing board, but I mean, we have so many things we could talk about. But yeah, you mentioned the parish though.
Yeah,
we spent a lot of time on downtown. I love downtown, but downtown success, we wouldn't be seeing that if we didn't spread those wins across the north side. $106 million invested in 3.5 years. Our parish being more unified than ever. I mean, with the
Brown Parks. Yeah, and then you guys are investing over on the Upper Lafayette side. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
What else is happening in the parish?
A lot, but it's I'll tell you this. I know we're running out of time. The biggest success we've had with the parish is unity. Before we got into office, it was just, I don't think it was intentional. It was more of a me versus you attitude. You know, it was almost like Lafayette was on a pedestal in Lafayette, in LCG's mind, and everybody else was kind of answering them. That's not the way to go. I meet with the mayors once a month, at least once a month, just to talk about best practices. We have a purposeful agenda. We share best practices. We iron out some wrinkles. We're all one vision, you know, and I know I'm in my official capacity here, but there's you just switch over to campaign. Look, I'm endorsed by every single mayor in this parish. That has never happened before, and it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't genuine. You can't just start meeting on an election year. That's got to be day one. It's got to be throughout. And if you see the wins we've had in Parks and Rec as a parish, if you said just Brown Park as it's designed is designed to complement, not compete with, complement Youngsville, complement Broussard, complement the investments in Scott and Carrico. Dussault's having some investments in their Parks and Rec from a parish standpoint. Our road program, my goodness, it's all unified. We've had more intergovernmental agreements in this administration than I don't know when. We're constantly working on joint projects. Used to in the past, a municipality or the parish or the city of Lafayette would stop at the geographical lines when the asphalt, that's all our contract provided for. No, now we just pick up the phone and we say, hey, we have this project. Would you like to continue to go? I
didn't know what an intergovernmental agreement was until recently because we've got a project in Broussard that's not in the city of Broussard.
There you go.
It's unincorporated, but the water line is supplied by Lafayette, but you have a contract with the city of Broussard. And I will agree with you. People are much easier to talk to at Broussard, and they're talking to the people in Lafayette, which I was actually a little surprised on that. I hope we can still get that project done, but we need water to do a project, and it's just kind of like a formality that, okay, well, city can't give it to us because we're not in the city of Broussard, and it's Lafayette Parish water, but it's got to go through the city of Broussard. So it's interesting that you mentioned the intergovernmental agreements because it seems to be happening a lot more than it used to be. I got one more issue because we've gone over our time, but one more issue and then one more question. This issue that, I know it's coming up and, I'm just curious, like, what do you think is going to happen with the short-term rental agreement? We have a lot of investors that have short-term rentals and, we need the good, bad, or the ugly. It doesn't matter because what's going to happen. I know there's two different ordinances that were proposed. One of them in the last city council meeting did not get a second.
Right.
Is that one coming back up in this next meeting, or is it just going to be one ordinance that's going to be voted on?
So I'm going to answer the question you asked. What do I think is going to happen? I think the only ordinance that's being considered is Councilman Andy Nakhan's ordinance, which would ban short-term rentals in the zone of RS1.
Right.
Now, the councilman has done a great job, worked with the Realtors Association, worked with a lot of stakeholders, and he's asking the council to amend his ordinance to provide for exceptions, and I applaud him for that. I believe that, and that's my opinion because we're not at the meeting yet, but I genuinely believe that the ordinance will pass. I think the exception should be granted, and I think that he'll have the votes to do it. I hope it does because, the exception calls for 2 layers of, I recall correctly on this, 2 layers of ownership that it would agree to. So the houses that immediately are adjoined to the proposed short-term rental, that layer plus one more layer of homeowners, if they agree 100% that you can have a short-term rental in RS1, then you would be allowed to do that if the exception goes through.
Interesting.
Okay. And I support that. Look, I'm a conservative. I believe that government should be at the localized level as much as you can if it makes sense. And in this regard, hey, look, if you have a short-term rental and you can convince 100% of your neighbors that it's a good idea, then who are we as a government to tell you can't do that?
Right.
And we're talking about extremely rare situations. One, I think there's only like 400 registered short-term rental, or there's none registered because there's no registration process right now. But there's 400 operating short-term rentals in the city of Lafayette, as I recall.
All right.
So now you go to RS1, so that shrinks it. Then you go to this rare exception to an exception. I mean, you're talking a handful of situations. I would trust the people more than the government in that.
I agree with you on that. So what would you like the listeners and the citizens of Lafayette to know, like, about, if you were elected again to be our mayor, what's your vision?
Vision, look, we got to keep doing what we've been doing. We got to continue to invest in infrastructure, continue to invest in drainage, continue to invest in roads, continue to invest in our economy. But this second term, we'll see a stronger shift to even more road successes, but also our economic gains.
Yeah.
I want to continue to diversify our economy. I want to continue to diversify our quality of life. We're not going to lose the success of the first term with the infrastructure because that's the standard. My directors understand the standard, and the standard is very high because our people deserve that. But our public works department, our drainage department, our traffic roads and bridge department, the three amigos we call them, they understand that that's the norm. That wasn't just a one and done, one term deal. Now we have the foundation. We're going to build on it. And that's what I want the folks of Lafayette to know. It's a great time to be in Lafayette, and our future's bright. So don't change it up.
And so if everything that all of your initiatives that you've been working on and will continue to work on come to fruition, what is that going to look like for Lafayette 5 years from now? What are the things that you would like to see, like concrete projects and things that you would like to look back and say, we succeeded?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, some of the ones we talked about.
Having flooding.
Yeah.
Infrastructure. Like, what does downtown look like?
Bigger than that, though. Jail moved.
Yeah.
Footprint at least started.
Right.
At least a catalytic project that's multi-generational to replace where that footprint is. But there's other ones, too. I mean, on the LUS side, getting a new generator here in Lafayette that we own, have more autonomy in the parish of Lafayette to serve our ratepayers, to put us in a more self-sustaining situation. Because look, we're talking about all these exciting things. If these light switch if they don't work, then none of it matters.
That's right.
If the water doesn't get to us, as you just mentioned, none of it matters. So keep doing what we're supposed to be doing because we built that foundation, but accelerate it. But I sense a strong economic boom in Lafayette, Louisiana in the next 4 years. I'm speaking that truth. We have the administration to do it. I'm telling you we're going to do it because we're doing, you know why? Because we have government doing what government's supposed to do.
Right. Stay out of our way.
That's it.
Help us.
That's and help us. You're going to have rules, but they have to be responsible.
That's right.
But we've shown that we have changed the climate on how you deal with local government here, and that's only going to get better.
Well, Josh,
if we're reelected.
Listen, Josh, on behalf of, all of us here at Keaty Real Estate and my family, we appreciate all your hard work. I know a lot of time it's a thankless job, but thank you for your work. And we appreciate you coming here and being so open with us on Real Talk.
Anytime. God bless you. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you, man.
All right.